So thank you for the introduction, Margot, and good afternoon, everyone. Well, I'm delighted to be here with you today and to talk about COFUND, an action, an MSCA action that I particularly like. You will see that's an initiative that plays a key role in supporting researchers' mobility and career development. And let's say that whether you are new to COFUND this afternoon or you're already familiar with COFUND, I really hope that this presentation will provide you with some interesting and valuable insights into how this action can create, in fact, exciting opportunities for participating organizations, but also for the researchers. So let's start with the first slide. So what is COFUND? COFUND, in fact, it's, as I said, an MSCA action that supports existing as well as new programs, doctoral and postdoctoral fellowships at national, regional, or international level. And the aim of COFUND is multiple. The first one is to strengthen the III, which means the international, intersectoral, and interdisciplinary training. It also aims to strengthen the mobility and career development of doctoral and postdoctoral researchers, and also to spread the best practices of the Curie actions. Another objective is to enhance the human resources in research and innovation, also at regional, national, and international level, and also to encourage funding synergies with other EU funds, like, for instance, the cohesion policy funds. In COFUND, you will find two types of programs. First, the doctoral program, and second, the postdoctoral programs. In the doctoral programs, the COFUND doctoral programs offer research training activities that allow doctoral candidates to develop and broaden their skills and competencies. The program must lead to the award of a doctoral degree in at least EU member state or a Horizon Europe associated countries. And the training activities that are offered in the doctoral program should be based on the European principles of on innovative doctoral trainings. Also in the program, there should be calls that would allow the researchers to propose their own projects or to choose among research projects proposed to them. In the postdoctoral program, the postdoctoral program will fund individual advanced research training and career development fellowships for the postdoctoral researchers. It will offer training to develop key transferable skills and competencies that are common to all fields. It will also foster innovation and entrepreneurship, and last but not least, it will promote, and where it's appropriate, in fact, reward open science practices. In the postdoctoral program, the researchers are expected to write their own proposals and choose the host institution. Now, the kind of organization that can participate in a COFUND. COFUND is by definition, a mono-beneficiary action, but you will see later in the presentation that, well, it's not 100% true. So there is only one legal entity established in EU member states or a Horizon Europe associated country that can apply as a beneficiary. And here I said beneficiary because, as I just said, you will see that there are all the type of participating organization in COFUND. In each COFUND action, when we say COFUND action, it means COFUND project. There must be a minimum of 3 researchers to be recruited. If proposals proposing research training for less than 3 researchers are submitted, they will be declared ineligible. Now that we are talking about the type of organization, there is a distinction between the academic sectors and the non-academic sectors. In the academic sector, you will find all public or private higher education establishments awarding academic degrees. You will also find public or private non-profit research organization and international European research organization. In the non-academic sector, it's all the socioeconomic actors that are not included in the academic sector and that fulfill the requirement of the Europe rules for participation. So there you can find companies, you can find civil society organizations, and other type of entities. Now that we have defined the kind of organizations that can participate in a COFUND action, you will see that there are different possible structures within a COFUND program. The first one, not the most common one, but still is, let's say, a hierarchical structure where you will find at the top a research funding organization managing the EU contribution. And then you would have a series of universities, laboratories, and others participating as implementing partners that will recruit, in fact, the researchers and implement the training program. That would be the first possible structure. A second possible structure, which in my opinion is the most common one, is that you would have, let's say it's flat horizontal structure, you would have a first organization in university that will be the beneficiary of the COFUND, but also that would recruit the researchers. So that university would manage the EU contribution and also recruit part of the researcher, acting a bit as an implementing organization. And then you would have other participating organization also acting as implementing organization, and so recruiting researchers. And then the last possible structure is the single point, meaning that we only have, and here really it's a true mono-beneficiary action in the sense that we would have one beneficiary recruiting all the researchers within the institution. So as you see, there are we identified three possible structure within a COFUND program. So when I presented this structure, you heard me talking about implementing partners. And so I'm now going to give a definition of an implementing partners and also an associated partner. An implementing partner is a third party implementing the doctoral or postdoctoral program by recruiting researcher. And so it means that this implementing partner can receive financial support from the beneficiary. And then you have the associated partner. And the associated partner is an entity that will participate in the COFUND action by providing training or secondment. And but they won't be able to charge cost or claim contribution for the participation. And also an associated partner will not employ a researcher under the action. Now, in COFUNDs, let's move to the next one. Yeah. So in COFUND, a beneficiary can receive a maximum EU contribution of 10 million euros per call. So if in a call, an applicant submits 2 or more successful applications with a total that exceeds 10 million euros, then the applicant will be required to decide which of the proposals to implement at the grant agreement preparation phase. The other thing, it's about the duration. The maximum duration in COFUND is 60 months from the starting date that it's set out in the grant agreement. Shorter programs are possible depending on the specificity of the proposed training. It may happen that we have programs with a duration of 48 months, for example. And the minimum duration of the fellowship offered to the selected researchers is 3 months on the basis of a full-time employment. Now, in terms of eligible researchers in the doctoral program, the researchers to be recruited, to be selected, must be doctoral candidates. So it means that they are not already in possession of a doctoral degree at the deadline of the call. The researchers who have successfully defended their doctoral thesis but have not been awarded the doctoral degree are not considered eligible in this case. And as I said at the beginning of my presentation, the researchers must be enrolled in a doctoral program leading to the award of a doctoral degree in at least one EU member state or Horizon Europe associated country. For the postdoctoral programs, here the researchers must be in possession of a doctoral degree at the deadline of the call, same as for the doctoral program. The difference is that the researchers who have successfully defended the doctoral thesis but have not yet been awarded the doctoral degree are considered eligible to apply. Then the recruited researchers in both cases can be of any nationality, and they must comply with the mobility rule. In other words, they must not have resided or carried out their main activity in the country of the recruiting beneficiary or implementing partner for more than 12 months in the 36 months immediately before the deadline of the call. So here are some important features to keep in mind. Is that the first one is that the researchers, that is, the researcher that is recruited under a COFUND program must work exclusively on the research project. The EU contribution, and you will see that in later in the presentation, is very flexible in the sense that it covers the cost related to the researchers, but also the cost related to the training, the research expensive, the transfer of knowledge and networking activities of the researchers, the cost of managing the action, and the indirect cost. You will see also later in the presentation that there are 2 types of allowance available, and these allowances are the long-term leave allowance and the special need allowance. And then the last item to keep in mind on this slide is the researcher eligibility that I've just described in the previous slide. Other important things to keep in mind is that I told you that the researchers have to work full-time on their research projects. They have to be employed full-time, okay? But researchers may, if there is an agreement with the supervisor and the beneficiary and with our approval first, implement the project on a part-time basis. And for the part-time work that is due to professional reason, here it's only for postdoctoral researchers. And so in case of part-time work, the researchers have to work at least 50% of the full working time in the recruiting organization. So whether it's a part-time for family or for other reasons. Now, in terms of secondments, for the secondments, they are strongly encouraged, but they should be relevant, feasible, and beneficial for the researchers and in line with the project objectives. The duration of the secondments should be limited to a maximum of 1/3 of the actual month spent implementing the research training activities. And in the case of secondments, the recruited researchers keep the contract with the sending institution that also pays for the travel and subsistence expenses. And last item on this slide is the Seal of Excellence. A Seal of Excellence is awarded to applications with a total score equal to or higher than 85%, but which cannot be funded due to a lack of budget available. Speaking of evaluation, the proposals that I'm sure many of you will submit soon will be evaluated by experts on the basis of the award criteria that you see on the slide. So excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of the implementation. There will be evaluation scores awarded for each of these criteria. Each criterion will be scored out of 5, and the scores to be given will be awarded with a resolution of 1 decimal place. And as you see on the slide, they will be subject to a weighting factor that is 50% for excellence, 30% for impact, and 20% for implementation. At the end, the proposal scoring equal to or above 70% will be considered for funding and within the limit of the available budget. The other proposals will be rejected. So that was the first part of this presentation. Now, in this part, we will talk about the budget structure and the project implementation. So in the COFUND budget, the EU contribution takes the form of unit contribution. The unit contribution for the doctoral program is 3,300 euros, and for the postdoctoral programs, it's 4,700 euros. There is an asterisk because in the event you're not able to offer an employment contract or an equivalent direct contract, then there is the possibility, but I will explain that later in the presentation, to offer a fixed amount fellowship. And in a case of a fixed amount fellowship, then the EU contribution is reduced by half. And so, as I said earlier in the presentation, the EU contribution can be used to support any cost item of the program. So the remuneration cost, the mobility cost, the family cost, the research cost also, the training and networking cost, the management cost, and the indirect costs. In the individual cost items that I've just listed may be fully or partially funded through other resources, including EU programs other than Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, such as, for instance, the cohesion policy funds, but you have to avoid the double funding. Now, the conditions in terms of budget. In your application, you must specify the total cost of the proposed program. And in particular, you see that on the slide, the amounts that will be provided for the benefit of the researcher and for the organization that will implement the program. Why do we need this information? It's because the information is needed to evaluate the adequateness of employment and working conditions of the researchers. Then comes the monthly gross remuneration that we need to see together with the mobility cost that we need to see in a proposal. And so by monthly gross remuneration, it means salaries, social security contributions, taxes and other costs, or compulsory deductions under the national legislation. And as I said, the mobility cost. And so the monthly gross remuneration and the mobility cost must not be lower than 3,300 euros for doctoral candidates and 4,700 euros for postdoctoral researchers. Again, if it is not possible to offer an employment contract or an equivalent direct contract, and you have to opt for a fixed amount fellowship, then the minimum to be offered is 1,400 euros for the doctoral candidates and 1,990 euros for the postdoctoral researchers. I also mentioned earlier in this presentation two types of allowances that are available here under CoFund. And first, you've got the long-term leave allowance. And second, you've got the special needs allowance. The long-term leave allowance will contribute to the personal cost incurred by the employer in case of the researcher's leave. And by researcher's leave, we mean the maternity leave, the paternity leave, parental leave, sick or special leave that is longer than 30 consecutive days. For the special needs allowance, this will contribute to any additional cost for the acquisition of special needs items or services for researchers with disabilities. And both the long-term leave and special needs allowances should be requested during the implementation of the CoFund action when the need arises. Now, I'm coming back on the types of contract to be offered in under CoFund. The beneficiary or the implementing organization, it will depend, they have to offer the eligible researchers an employment contract, or as I said earlier, an equivalent direct contract with full social security coverage. If an employment contract cannot be provided, then the beneficiary or the implementing partner may, and it is an exception, so exceptionally recruit the researcher under the fixed amount fellowship. And so in this case, the CoFund allowance will be halved, and the beneficiary must ensure that the researcher will enjoy a minimum social security coverage, so including sickness, parental, invalidity benefits, and also benefits for accidents at work and occupational diseases. Also, on this slide, I will talk first about the selection procedure for the doctoral and postdoctoral candidates. So as you know, this evaluation and selection procedures, they must be open, transparent, merit-based, impartial, and equitable. And each word here is really important. Also, the vacancy notice that is to be widely advertised, including, and it's an obligation on the Year Access website, must mention if the published rates include employers' and employees' taxes and contributions. You will be also requested to indicate the gross salary. So the gross salary is the net salary plus the employees' taxes and contributions. Also, in your application, you should provide assurance when describing the evaluation and selection procedure that there will be no conflict of interest and no pre-selection in the process. That's really important, and you will see later in the presentation, I will describe also, I will insist on the role of the supervisor, and especially at the stage of the evaluation and selection process. In terms of experts acting as evaluators for the doctoral program, there must be independent evaluators from outside the partnership with no conflict of interest, and these experts must be involved at all stages of the evaluation process and the selection process. In the evaluation selection committees, you will have an adequate gender balance and also relevant expertise and experience to assess the candidates. as I said, there must be a good balance between experts who are related to the um, beneficiary and implementing partners, and independent experts from outside the partnership. For the postdoctoral program, the same rule applies with an additional element is that the independent experts in the case of postdoctoral programs must be based in other countries. So again, they must be contracted with no conflict of interest. And they must be present at all stages of the evaluation and selection process. And so, again, you will have an adequate gender balance in the evaluation and selection committees with the relevant expertise and experience to assess a candidate. And yeah, um, again, there must be a significant number, there must be a good balance, but a significant number of independent experts from outside the partnership and based in other countries. And then finally, after the evaluation and the selection process, once the selected researchers are recruited, the training program that should be offered, and I already gave some elements at the beginning of the presentation, should include also elements of cross-sectoral mobility and interdisciplinarity. There are things that are elements that are important to keep in mind when you prepare your application. Is first the call timing. You have to give enough time at the different stages of the evaluation and selection process. And when I say evaluation and selection process, I also include the application stage, because you don't know the number of applications you will receive, and that you will have to screen for the eligibility and admissibility phase before the applications go for evaluation. It will also depend on the number of fellows that you would like to recruit. So if the number of fellows, even if you will recruit, let's say, a low number of fellows, you don't know the number of applications you might receive. So it's really important that you give sufficient time at each stage of the evaluation and selection process. And please have a reserve list in case when you go back to the applicants with the evaluation results and you offer the selected candidates a fellowship, they turn down the offer for whatever reason, maybe because they already find another opportunity or whatever. So it's really important to have a reserve list. Another thing that is for which we would like to bring some clarification is the role of the supervisor in the application and the recruitment process. I told you in a previous slide that the recruitment, the evaluation and selection process, so the recruitment process must be open, transparent, merit-based, impartial, and equitable. And so to guarantee this, the role of the supervisor must be limited. So if there is a contact at application stage between the supervisor and potential candidate, there must be a rationale that is specified in the application for that. It means that, for instance, a candidate can be in contact with a supervisor at application stage, but only to have information, let's say, on the research group, the research facility, to see if there is a potential of a good connection between the candidate and the research group, but it should be really limited to that. The supervisor must not be involved in the drafting of the proposal, and there must not be any kind of pre-approval required by the supervisor before the submission of the application. The supervisor has no role to play in the recruitment process or at the decision-making stage. And again, as I said earlier, the applicant has to provide assurance that there will not be any conflict of interest or no kind of pre-selection during the recruitment phase. Another novelty is the use of artificial intelligence by the applicants and beneficiary. The use of generative AI tools is permitted, but you have to bear in mind that the legal responsibility at application stage is your responsibility. The AI tool must not be used at the recruitment process or during the decision-making phase. Again, I said that the applicants are responsible for the content of the proposals. So if there are inaccurate or erroneous data that come from the AI tool and are left in the proposals, then the proposal will be penalized. And also, as you know, plagiarism may lead to the rejection of a proposal. So if you use AI tool, please double check the application before you submit it. Now, in the last part of this presentation, we will talk about the application structure, a few data about the Belgian participation in Horizon Europe, and then some details about the 2025 call. In the application, and I'm pretty sure that you already know that, but it's always good to refresh a little bit the information provided on the application. There are two parts. You've got the part A that is called the structure data, and this is the administrative form that you will complete online. There are 4 sections that I will present in the next slide. Then you've got the part B, which is a technical description of the proposal, where you will have details of the proposed research program about the practical arrangements that are planned to implement the program, in fact, the research program. And this part B will be used by the independent expert to evaluate the proposals. And in the part B, you've got the part B1, which is a description of the action, and the part B2, which includes the annexes. And I will describe both parts later in the presentation. You will see that in the COFUND template, the part B is given twice, and it's on purpose. The first time, the part B includes detailed instructions on how to complete the different section of the part B. And then the same part B that is repeated without instructions. And this is the part B that the applicant will use as part of the application form. Now, coming back to the part A, I said that there are 4 sections in the part A. The first section is the general information, where you will find the title of the proposal, the duration of the action, some keywords about the scope of the proposals, an abstract describing the proposal. Also a section to declare if the proposal is a reapplication, and then a series of declarations that the applicant will have to confirm. Then under participants, then you will find the list of participating organizations. So the beneficiary and the associated partner. It's important to keep in mind that in the part A, only the beneficiary and the associated partner can be entered, can be listed, and not the implementing partners. The implementing partners are listed in the part B. Then you will have the budget that will be completed based on the budget table that you will first complete in the part B. There is also a slide dedicated on how to complete this budget table in the part B. And finally, there is a last section on ethics and security. For ethics, there is an ethics issue table with yes, no question on human embryonic and human embryonic stem cells, on humans, personal data, animals, and also an ethics self-assessment with the ethical dimension of the objective, the methodology, the impact. In CoFund, since the research project to be funded are not known yet at application stage, this is something that you have to keep in mind. So it's not possible to tell already if there will be ethical issues, but you have to describe your own procedures in the proposal. And also you must follow the ethics procedures of the framework program. And then the last bit under section 4 is about this security issue table with yes, no question to answer on the EU classified information, the potential for misuse of results and national security restrictions. Then in the part B, the part B start with a history of changes so that you can see the changes that have been made to the templates to be used since the initial version in 2021. You have instruction for drafting the part B, and it's really important to dedicate a few minutes on these instructions. You will find instruction on the layout and on the layout of the submission template. You will find information on the page limit applied, the size limit of the documents, the minimum font size, and the margin size to use. And this is something that we will check at admissibility and eligibility stage. Then you will find a table with the definition of terms and concepts that are used in the applications, such as deliverables, impacts, milestones, outcome. You will find some guidance on the use of generative AI tools. It's basically what I said in a previous slide. And then you will have the section on part B1, the description of the action, and part B2, the annexes, with and without the instructions on how to complete both sections. In part B1, it starts with the start page where you will find where you will have to insert information about the action, the call, the proposal acronym, and the CoFund scheme under which the proposals you're going to submit is evaluated, so doctoral, postdoctoral. Then a table of content that must not exceed 1 page, a general description of the program, and some information on the beneficiary. And there you will see that there are tables provided for the information on the beneficiary. And this general description and the info on the beneficiary must not exceed 2 pages. These 2 pages are not evaluated at evaluation stage. And then you have 3 sections that represent the 3 award criteria, namely excellence, impact, and implementation. You are free, I mean, when I say you, the applicants are free to decide on the allocation of pages between the sections, but the 3 sections must not exceed 30 pages. As I said, guidance and instructions on how to complete each subsection within the section are given in the template. And we were talking about the budget. So the table with the amount to be provided to the researchers and the hosting organization. So the budget table is to be found under criterion 1, excellence. Then in part B2, so the annexes, you will have a first section on ethics. So there, the applicant will describe the ethics procedure to be enforced in the execution of the program at applications phase, at the selection evaluation phase, and the monitoring and the follow-up of the projects, also the training and ethics. For this section, there is no page limit. Then you will have a section on the partner organizations. There will be a table to be completed where the applicant will list and detail the role of the partner organizations, so the implementing partners and the associated partners that are already known at the stage of the application, including the financial contribution to the program. That will be in the first table. Then there will be another table per partner organization, so implementing partner and associated partner, to provide a short description. It should not exceed half a page per organization. And then, the letters of commitment in the previous edition until the 2024 calls had to be provided at application stage. It's not longer the case. The letter of commitment will only be provided at gap stage for those proposals that are selected for funding, and it's only the implementing partners that will be requested to provide the letters of commitment. And then there is a last section on the environmental considerations in light of the MSCA Green Charter, and here the applicant will explain how the project will follow the Green Charter and how the future program will include environmental considerations in all aspects of the implementation of the program. This is the budget table that you will find in under criterion 1, excellence, and that you will have to complete first before completing the budget section in part A. So you see that you've got on the first column in the cost categories, so you've got the COFUND allowance, and you will have to specify which one you select, the applicable rate. And then you've got all the cost categories. We listed a number of cost categories, okay? But you see that there are 2 asterisks, so you will have to give the amount if it is applicable. If, for instance, some of the cost categories that are listed here are not applicable in the program, then you can delete them. And if you have for the cost categories that are not listed in the table, you can add them. Again, I remind you here for the first 2 cost categories, so the COFUND allowance that you will apply and the mobility allowance, that these 2 cost categories are part of the monthly gross remuneration, and that the minimum for the doctoral program as a monthly gross remuneration is 3,300 euros, and for the postdoctoral program is 4,700 euros. So you must clearly indicate this amount here, okay? And at a later stage, if your proposal is selected for funding, in the advertisement, in the post-advertisement, and especially on your access, you will have to indicate the same information. Then you've got, as I said, the EU contribution that you can spread among the different cost categories. Then you will indicate your own resources here, and then the total amount here. On the next slide, so you see you've got the bottom of the budget table that I presented in the previous slide. And when I said that you first have to complete this table, is that because it will help you fill in the table, the budget section in the part A, sorry. So you see that here the number of fellows that you will indicate here will be the same that you will indicate under part A under the column number of recruited researcher here. The total amount that will be calculated here and that will be given here will, for the own resources, will also appear here. This is the total amount that you will have to indicate here. And here, the number of fellow months that your program will include will also have to be reported here under this column if you offer an employment contract, or this column if you offer a fixed amount fellowship. So that was all for the application. Now, in terms of Belgian participation in COFUND proposals in the under Horizon Europe, you see on the slide that in 2021 there were 2 proposals submitted, one for each panel, doctoral and postdoctoral, and that 1 proposal was selected for funding. In 2022, we received also 2 proposals, one per panel, but none of them was selected for funding. In 2023, there was only 1 proposal submitted for funding that was not selected for funding. But in 2024, so in the last call, there were 1 proposal submitted for the COFUND doctoral and 3 proposals submitted for COFUND postdoctoral. So the results of the evaluation are not published yet, so I couldn't complete the slide here. But these the result of the evaluation should be available very, very soon in the coming days. Here you see the Belgian participation in terms of organizations. And so you see that in 2021, in the proposals that were evaluated, we had a little bit more than 30 organizations. And in the proposals that were recruited for funding, we had around 12 or 13 organizations participating in this project. In 2022, we had 50 organizations in the proposals that were evaluated, and we had 10 Belgian organizations participating in selected proposals. In 2023, we had a little bit more than 40 organizations in the evaluated proposals, and roughly half of them were found in the selected proposals. Now, in terms of call for this year call, so for the 2025 call, so the call was open in January, on the 23rd of January, and the deadline to submit the applications is the 24th of June, but please don't wait the very last moment to submit your application. I would advise you to have your application ready for submission at least 2 days before the deadline, so that you have still, let's say, 2 days to read again one last time the proposal before you submit it, and you submit the proposal the day before the deadline. The budget for this call is approximately 102 million euros. And then in terms of deadline, indicative timeline for the call. So as I said, the call deadline is on the 24th of June. The evaluation will take place between July and October this year. The evaluation results should be known in November this year. And then for those proposals that are selected for funding, the grant agreement preparation will take place between November this year and February next year. So basically, yeah, that's it for me.